At just 19.6 square miles, St. John, the second smallest island of the United States Virgin Islands, boasts over 20 miles of hiking trails. Many of the trails, like the Cinnamon Bay Trail we hiked earlier this season, are fan favorites. Each trail offers a unique experience and all guarantee an abundance of natural beauty, cultural significance, and history. But to some, there is no trail more significant historically and culturally than the Reef Bay Trail.
The Reef Bay hike I would describe as a slice of St. John's history. It really covers all the different cultures that have been through here, all the different types of people, and it also shows you a lot of the different environments we have on this tiny little island. Currently we're going down the Reef Bay Trail twice a week. That's the guided hike and the boat ride return. We'll be increasing that as the season progresses, probably to 4 or 5 days a week.
About 2.1 miles long, there's plenty of interesting things to see along this trail, to include a waterfall and carvings made centuries ago by African ancestors. And those carvings are the petroglyphs, which can be found near the end of the trail. Now, there is some debate over who left behind the carvings. Most say they are the work of early Taino Indians, but some feel they are from African ancestors who were in the region long before the arrival of Christopher Columbus. Now that's interesting. Now the trail begins 4.9 miles east of Cruz Bay, one of two main towns on St. John. The trail is well maintained and it descends about 1,000 feet through a shady, moist forest. This moist forest eventually turns into a dry forest. For some, the trail takes an entire day to complete, so we better get a move on. Joining us on this hike is our good friend and tour guide, Olassie Davis. If you can remember, Mr. Davis accompanied us on several of the hikes on the island of St. Croix, the largest of the Virgin Islands. Put it this way, wherever there is a hiking trail, you are sure to find Mr. Davis there. According to Mr. Davis, the trail we are on was once an old Danish road. The stones we see along the trail were placed to stabilize the trail and allow water to run off into the guts. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a moist forest, and as you can see, there is a little bit of rain. That, in addition to the protruding rocks you see here, can make the hike somewhat challenging. So as far as I'm concerned, slow and steady will get us to our destination.
Forest, I didn't talk about what forest really does. As it rains, it slows the rain down, number one. Secondly, the water is able to percolate in the ground, and therefore the underground aqueduct come on top and begin to flow. If this was open, you will get more wet and the water run off. And this have a major impact on our underground natural resources.
Okay.
So that's why you're hiking inside the forest and it's raining, basically raining, but you're barely getting wet.
Barely
Because
getting
the
wet.
tree cup on it and the water keep it moving down, and which is very good.
Immediately as you begin the trail, you realize the lush vegetation that runs along the trail and surrounds you.
We have a lot of plants that most people from the States consider indoor plants, house plants. We have a lot of anthuriums and bromeliads, both of which are quite dramatic and different looking from what you see stateside. Of course, we have a lot of significant trees, native trees, such as the bay rum tree. We have the locust and capox, so there's a lot to be seen.
So Mr. Davis, this is a massive tree. Tell us a little bit about it.
This tree at first we call it capot or silk cotton.
Okay.
It's more than 20 years old. It could be over 20 years old. The local legend have it is a man and a woman got married.
Man and a woman got married.
You can notice, you see, this could be the man or it could be the woman. So folks that argue about it, and in the center you can see how it joined together. And this is the child. But like you mentioned earlier, You think this is the woman because it have all kind of
It's a little curvy, you know?
Very curvy.
Which is
So
fun enough.
that makes a lot of sense. I would say this is the woman.
Okay.
That's a big woman compared to this little man here. But anyway, the silk cotton tree, the word silk cotton because traditionally here in the island, we collect the silk to make pillow.
Okay.
That's where the word silk cotton came into being. These trees grew along stream beds or guts. And many years ago, the tree was used for kayak, or what they use it for, they cut it from this side and go right up, and they make canoe
Canoes.
out of the tree.
Okay.
And in fact, in some literature mentioned they have close to around 50 men. So that's a huge tree.
Wow.
And they can kayak from South America and come all up in the Caribbean region.
Do most of the K-Pac trees grow to be this massive?
They do go massive tree. You can see the root system. And you can see the reason why they grow near to river, guts or stream, because the whole is held together, the whole is intact. It's not a very woody tree, even though it feels very solid. But
It sounds a little,
it feels very, but not a very woody tree.
Okay.
But it got a vast root system that hold it soil together.
And this tree looks to be about how old?
It's close to 300 or over 300 years old.
Wow, that's impressive.
And you look right up, you can see a form, or the rare form, is common here in St. John and St. Thomas, and it's rare in St. Chris.
What's that?
It's a form,
Okay.
one of the forms that we have in the islands. See,
Oh,
right?
okay, the
Yeah,
form.
and basically the form does, the tree is the host, and the form just gather the nutrients as it's rain and fall in the heart of the form itself. The form there, and underneath the form, it propagates by spores, so it fly in the air, so you don't have seed per se. So the spores fly all over and will land on top of a tree like this, the K-Pac,
Wow.
and then we just start to sprout and start to grow.
Nice. Wow. This is impressive. This is really big.
On the other hand, this is called a jumbe tree
Jumbi, why?
because Africans, especially in Africa, that this is native to the Caribbean and tropical America and Africa, they plant this tree near to the village to protect them from evil spirit. And this tree in the same family of the baobab tree and St. Chris.
Baobab, okay.
So many times people get confused with the silk cotton and the baobab tree because they look very, very similar, but they're in the same family.
In addition to these massive trees, there are several trees and plants that produce fruits which are edible, like these guava berry trees and these bromeliads, which are Bromelia penguins, also referred to as wild pineapple.
This is the wild pineapple fruit. It's edible and is rich in vitamin C. So what I'm doing here is peeling it off. And it tastes very sweet. And what we say locally, Thai, kind of type it tongue a little bit, but it tastes very sweet. And that's the inside of it. And I will take a bite. Delicious. Gold. Gold.
The fruit is sweet and rich in calcium and vitamin C. However, one must be careful not to rub their eyes or touch his or her skin after handling it. The wild pineapple's skin produces a chemical which can burn eyes and cause a slight skin rash. About midway into the hike, you come across the ruins of the Janeisha Sugar Estate, a plantation that operated in the early 18th century. Okay, Mr. Davis, we seem to be standing in some sort of plantation. Tell us a little bit about this area.
Okay, we're still within Reef Bay plantation.
Okay.
What happened over the years, plantation expanded. In other words, they join them or they combine them together. One of the reasons for that, because some plantations cannot survive by themselves because of the sugar economy. And this is apparently is one that was joined together with the Reef Bay plantations. And these are the ruins at the sea.
What's the name of this plantation?
Okay, the name of the plantation is Janeisha Sugar Estate. Again, justice sound like what? Man or woman?
A woman.
Woman. You got it. And so what happened, other plantation, they brought this smaller plantation and they combine and where they create like a central factory. And so the sugar brought to one main factory, which as you go further down the trail, we will see the sugar factory down there. And so all the sugar in this particular area here and surrounded estate belong to the one sugar factory.
Okay.
The tree here in front of you, they call it Grigri. The big tree is over 200 years old.
Huge.
And those trees were timber species. When the Danish came here, those some of the trees was used to build great houses, sugar mill, slave quarters, the cookhouse, and the likes. And they also called black olive
Okay.
as well.
Does it have any uses that you can
okay,
make medicinal or anything like that?
Medicinal, the tree is used for the cold.
Okay.
And they use the leaf for fever. And of course, you boil the water and then you add the leaf in it and you sip it and you drink it. You can label that sugar if you want to or honey. Or a little bit of lime or lemon and you just drink it.
How far is this area from the actual Reef Bay plantation? I know we're on the same route, but how far is it?
We have about 1,000 miles to go, just kidding. But we're not too far from the Petroglyph.
Okay.
As we go down, we see the Petroglyph, and we hike up to the waterfall, and we come back, and we go down to the bottom. We probably have the whole plantation structure, and it's right on top.
We are now on our way to see the petroglyphs. However, there are still a few ruins that can be found on the trail. This is what remains of the Parforce village. It was a workers' village for the sugar factory. However, at the end of the sugar industry era, the village became known for raising cattle and cultivating crops. And then there is this beautiful stone wall. So, Mr. Davis, I know we're on our way to see the petroglyphs, but I can't help but notice this beautiful wall formation. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, these stones were put there over 200 years ago by the enslaved Africans. And one of the reasons they keep in animals, so instead of having barbed wire like today, in those days they used stones. So they create what we call a terrace. So you can see, just imagine these stones being there for over 200 years with all the hurricane that we have over those years and still standing. So this is a monument to those that came before us and put these stones together. And these stones were gathered from all the mountain sides and come down and really brought the stone here and stood along the area and create this wall to keep in animals.
And they use wall formations like this throughout the island?
Throughout the island and throughout the estates. And Reef Bay is a good example. Even in Honduras, when I was there a couple of years ago, you see the same formation to keep animals in.
We are now about 2 miles into the hike, and we've reached what many consider the highlight of the Reef Bay Trail, the Petroglyph site. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough rainfall on this day to produce a steady waterfall. Nonetheless, to see the different carvings on the rocks is an amazing experience.
The most significant is the petroglyphs, which were early rock carvings done by Taino Indians in the early thousands, 1000 through 1400 AD. And they are seen nowhere else in the Virgin Islands, so that is pretty significant.
Oh my God, Mr. David, this is absolutely amazing. Tell us a little bit about what we're watching here.
What you're watching is the petroglyph here in Reef Bay waterfall and St. John. Over the years, there were different controversy how these petroglyphs get here.
Okay.
But these petroglyphs are African, No.
Mr. Davis's conclusion is based on a 1974 archaeological find in Hull Bay, St. Thomas, the sister island of St. John, located just a few miles southwest of the island. It was there that the remains of possible pre-Columbian Africans were found. Tests by the Smithsonian Institute on artifacts found with the remains date back to 1250 AD. However, due to environmental factors such as seawater contamination, the findings were ruled inconclusive. That's why many believe the petroglyphs were made by Taino Indians. Nonetheless, for some, the Hull Bay find, along with other similarities between the petroglyphs and African rituals, are proof enough that these carvings were made by African ancestors.
These glyphs here represent in terms of the sun, and some folks believe, some information believe that the Ashanti tribe of the petroglyph it depict the sun, explaining about how they get energy from the sun.
No, do you know why they would think that it would be the Taino Indians versus the Ashanti tribe?
Basically because of research. You have to do your research, a lot of research. The archaeologists and historians, but from my source of information, all the research I've done on the petroglyph, a lot of this, it go back from the Taino, and some of these same petroglyph you can see in West Africa.
Wow, that is amazing. So tell me, why do you think they chose this area? I'm assuming it may have something to do with the waterfall that we're also looking at. Is the area, the specific area they use, you know, and of any importance?
The possibility, because you could see there's an opening here, and since some of the petroglyph represent the sun or sun god, and of course the water reflect the sun. The waterfall come down from right down, and it run down to the shore. So there's a possibility, and then the type of rock they have is sedimentary rock, and some of the rock here is kind of what we call blue bits, which is very hard rock that we use for building houses or use in a mine or crusher. And so there's a possibility because of the opening area here and the water that's running down. And the other possibility too is near to the shore. We're not too far from the shore. As they come into Reef Bay area, that's the other possibility. And so they put the mark in here, and this could be asked to be a ceremonial area too as well.
Wow, that is amazing. Do you know of any other areas on the island that we can find, say, petroglyphs like this?
No, I don't have any area, but again, they might have areas on the island that we never discovered yet that you find the petroglyph. Within the water, we do have what we call freshwater lobster, and synchro they call it crebishi. It's crayfish, and so this waterfall used to run all day long before there was any East African working here as slave. Remember, this was the entire forest area, and the water run all day long. Now, we call it a seasonal waterfall. So starting from late August to November, that's our rainy season here in the Virgin Islands. And more likely, you will see water begin to run. This year, our rainfall is below average.
Okay.
In other words, we not get sufficient rain this year.
So then that's why the waterfall is not running right now.
Yes.
So why does the color of the water look like this right now?
Because the trees around it drop in the water, and it decomposes with microorganisms, and the fish in the water eat that. For example, the tree behind of you is an autograph tree, see right there, so.
Okay.
That's a native tree here.
Any other native trees?
This tree right there, some people call it god plum. This is a tree right there, a god apple, and the fire in the water. And over the period of time, it decomposes and it gives it that color.
That brown color. The actual drawings, the petroglyphs, they like the facial features are real broad, like the lips and the nose. So you know, like they resemble, I guess, our ancestors. That's amazing, though. This experience is one I'll never forget. And while it would have been the perfect ending to this day, there is still one last thing to see on this hike. the end of the Reef Bay Trail, there is this well-preserved Reef Bay Sugar Factory. It dates back to the 1800s and was used to process sugarcane into sugar, and also for distilling rum. As you can see, the factory building retains much of its original equipment.
It was the last operating sugar factory on St. John. It actually operated until the early 1900s.
Well, behind us, it looks like an amazing piece of machinery. What is this that we're looking at, Olassie?
This is the steam engine, but before the steam engine, it was the animal mill.
Okay.
The animal mill was here where it grind the cane. What happened starting from the 17th to 1800, they start off with the windmill
Okay.
and the animal mill. And then later on, advanced to the steam engine. So this tractor is right there in front of us now. This is the animal mill, where the animal kind of go around and it grind the entire cane, the whole process. If you look around, you see this wall go straight around. So the slave is like this. So like I'm the slave, you're hitting the animals, and animals just walking around like this. And they're going straight around.
So we're going around, okay.
Around and around like this.
All this time they feed in the...
Right, if they feed in the cane going
Inside?
through there. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're going straight to the mill, you see. They fill in the cane.
It runs
and
through.
It run right through here. The juice run right through here, and it go down to the boiler room.
Okay.
See, it run right through here, go right down to the boiler room. And those are the boiler room inside. Okay?
Wow, that's impressive. And it's amazing how they went from this, using animals, to a steam engine.
To the steam engine. So that helped a whole lot in terms of the slave. And a whole lot in terms of the animal too, because I have to work very hard to grind the cane. And they use ox, we call cows, with a long horn, something they use donkey,
okay.
and something they use mules.
Okay. So we don't want to talk too loud because we have bats in here. But Olassie, please tell us what we're looking at.
This is the steam room. This is put in back in 1861. You can see the engines. Here the engines in here. So they went from the chimney to the sugar mill to the animal mill.
Okay.
And this is the steam engine. So all you have to do is just get some oil.
Fire it up.
And start it up, and it just kick in. And it start to grind cane. Let's grow some cane.
The factory is well preserved, but this may be a little too far-fetched.
You can see all the design of the bricks. Again, you can see the bricks.
With the red bricks.
With the red bricks. And this is the engine room
Not
here.
not too much coral.
Not too many coral. You see most of the coral on the outside of the sugar factory. But this is a well-preserved, one of the best preserved.
It's spectacular. This is
Very, very preserved.
beautiful.
And hundreds of, you see you have some bats in the roof.
A lot of bats.
Those are roof bats.
Okay.
And they look like they're sleeping, some is awake. So I hope they will not fly down.
No. We might want to get out of here soon.
So there's roof bat here.
Okay, I see a lot of soldier crabs.
The crab gather the nuts. Those nuts you see is dark almond. We usually starting from August to September. It's a migration period of the hermit crab, or we call soldier crab.
Okay.
So they migrated to the ocean and they spawn or they mate and they come back up. So you can notice in here there's a lot of seeds all over. So they gather the seeds and they eat the seeds.
Wow.
In Japan, they call the soldier crab red meat house, which means crab are not born with shell. So as they go down to the shore and they come back up, they look for shell and go into the shell. And when the shell get too small, they look for other shell. Soldier crab, on the other hand, because of the red gundi, the name soldier crab. Historically, the enslaved African, they eat the soldier crab. There's one in the diet, and along with white rum. So it was eating. Nowadays, the crab is being used for catching fish.
It's no surprise why this hike was voted as one of the top 10 in the Caribbean. Its history and the vegetation and structures seen along the trail makes the experience a memorable one.
Wow, that was quite an experience for me. So much history, culture, and interesting facts, all in a 2.1-mile trail. I would encourage anyone and everyone who lives on the island or visits to actually walk the trail and see and learn for themselves why it's one of the more popular trails in the national park system. So until next time, always remember to cherish your home, this beautiful island, but most of all, cherish each other.
Rediscover St. John is underwritten in part by Keneal Bay, a Rosewood resort.